It's a fascinating piece of reporting that we're going to talk about now. We're going to start with this photo. It's from September 9, 1957, and it shows Dallas Cowboys owner Jerry Jones among a crowd of white students trying to keep black students from integrating at an Arkansas high school. This is a Washington Post reporting. Reports that Jones, who was 14 at the time, could be seen standing a few yards from where the 6 black students were being jostled and repelled with snarling racial slurs by ringleaders of the mob. So joining us now, sports and feature columnist at the Washington Post, Sally Jenkins. Sally broke this story along with her co-author, David Moranis. We're so happy that you could join us this morning. Thank you very much. Happy Thanksgiving to you. And again, I have to commend you on your reporting. This whole thing is right. I mean, it's really stunning. It's fascinating. So let's start with the picture, okay, and then we'll talk about, you know, how we could have sort of moved diversity along with coaching in the NFL and in sports. Let's start with this photograph, though. What did you learn about this from this photograph?
Well, I think the first thing you learn is just how widespread the segregationists were in Little Rock and North Little Rock. Jerry Jones's high school was North Little Rock, which was across the Arkansas River from Central High School, which is the school that got all of the attention when Eisenhower sent in federal troops to protect the Little Rock Nine at that school over there. But the segregationist agitators were actually very active on both sites. And the fact that we knew that generationally, Jerry Jones had to have experienced the events in Little Rock more generally, but to find him in the photograph and to learn that he experienced one of those incidents right on the schoolhouse steps was pretty revelatory. We were blown away, to put it mildly.
Here's the question that I first have. How in the world were they able to spot a 14-year-old Jerry Jones in a photo? Now, I'm not a Don Lemon fan at all, not even a little bit. I don't care about Jerry Jones even a little bit. I'm not even a football guy, I'm a basketball guy, right? But my question still remains, how is it possible? I'm just wondering what the process was that they used to be able to scan through this photo and then ultimately identify Jerry Jones in the middle back of a photo, because he looks nothing like that as an old man, obviously, as he did as a young kid. The second thing that I'm asking is, well, it's not even a question, it's really just more of an observation, and that do we hold our 14, 15-year-old selves to the same standard or as accountable as we hold ourselves today? Because largely we're identified as minors, as children, so on and so forth. And I think that it's not unfair to say that we pay for the sins of our fathers, because at that time, it's a much different time back then than it is in 2022. I know that the narrative and the sentiment is always going to be, okay, well, now we have to hire more black coaches as a result of it. And they're going to try to bully him into his franchise because he largely has the most valuable franchise in the Dallas Cowboys. And they're going to say that he's never hired a black coach. But let's continue.
Let me ask you about this picture just quickly here, because he's saying, you know, I was just there. I wasn't participating. I was there just sort of to observe.
Liability, baby.
But with the photograph, which you point out in your reporting, is that in order to get where he was at the top of those stairs, that he had to get up there pretty quickly, and those were sort of the students that were keeping the black students from entering. Does this say anything about his participation? Are you making any sort of judgment about it, or?
No, two things. First of all, he's a little at the time, so he's actually younger than the ringleaders that you can see in the photographs. That's one thing that we noticed. We did look at a sequence of photos leading up to those schoolhouse steps, and the white teenagers on the steps did have to move around the black students to get to the top of the steps. Nevertheless, he is further back. He is younger than the lead participants. And so I think that, you know, you simply have to take him at his word unless something else appears, that he was there more out of curiosity and fascination, as opposed to being really at the very epicenter of the active events. He does remember, one thing he told us that did not make it in the story is that he does remember that it got physical. The tough guys that you see in the center of the photograph end up really pushing the kids down off the steps. And in fact, one of them is arrested.
You know, it kind of begs the question of the role that social media for me, and I'm always looking at it from a holistic perspective. And that's why I document the journey and I tell it from my perspective. That's the whole idea or the reason why I originally got on YouTube in the first place, is just to document the journey and give insight and information, in addition to being able to market myself more effectively in corporate America. But it does beg the question, if you can pull a photo from then, all the way from then, from the school fight segregation, imagine what life is going to be like for people that wind up being or corporate executives, or they get into the top of the food chain and all we able to do is, or we're easily able to just pull from social media or pull from any self-uploaded pictures or what happened a long time ago on Facebook and all of this other type of stuff. And that's why I'm very, very forthcoming with telling my story, because it's like you can't uncover anything that I've already covered, A. And then B, we have to start asking a question of how is this going to affect us later? I try not to get caught up or be in places that ultimately would have me questioning or being questioned about something that I ain't even have nothing to do with. They got to take him at his word. What does this say about Jerry Jones today? Do we even care? And are black people even really going to care? Because the NFL is a fraternity, and I can't imagine them making him sell his franchise anyway. But let's continue.
I hope everyone takes a moment to read the reporting that you and David did as they watch football, because the reason you did this is not just about that photo. It's about what it means with his position of power in the league now and the NFL
Yeah,
now,
we all
and the
biased.
position of power the Cowboys have, right? And this is part of what the Washington Post is doing, examining the NFL's, as you guys call, decades-long failure to equitably promote black coaches, right? And
Yes.
Go ahead.
Well, this story is part of a long series we've been doing called Blackout, which is examining the issues in the league about the fact that almost 70% of the workforce is black, and yet there are only 3 head coaches. One of the things our data has found is that mid-level black coaches who do manage to get head coaching jobs waited an average of 9 years longer in mid-level assistant coaching jobs than their white counterparts. So there's some very striking inequities within the league, as the league admits. And by the way, Jerry Jones was the only owner to talk to us for this series in any in-depth way. We give him a lot of credit for sitting down and having this very difficult conversation.
Yeah, I'm glad you bring that up, right? They all should have talked to you, by the way. But look, one of the sportscasters.
And Jerry Jones is obviously, he has some very smart people around him that said that, hey, you need to get out ahead of this, rather than allowing other people to create the narrative for you, so that the whole story can be told from your vantage point and not just assumptions being made from the picture.
Well-known retired sportscaster in Dallas, Dale Hansen, said, "What frustrates me most is he, meaning Jerry Jones, is in such a position, such a leader, that if he would take a strong stance, he could be the force of change in the NFL." And it seems like from your reporting, Jones agrees that he could be the change maker here for the league.
He did agree, and that was one of the more interesting things in our conversation with him, which lasted well over 2.5 hours. He said, "I understand that. I agree with that." We discussed why he hadn't been at the forefront of this issue until now. And the short answer to that is that he's been more concerned with trying to win, Super Bowls and appointing, men who were old friends of his or who he knew to the job.
We can just leave it there, because profits over feelings. It's profits over feelings. Nobody cares about what you feel like. Everybody focuses more on what makes the most sense as far as their bottom line. Change is secondary to winning. Change is secondary to winning. Not saying that anything needs to change whatsoever, because I don't really care about how many head coaches there are in the National Football League. It's not a league that I watch or contribute to from a financial perspective anyway. But let me hear what you guys think. Do you think that this photo is more reflective of the power structure within the NFL and then largely corporate America? Or do you think that it's just water under the bridge because you can't hold somebody accountable from what it is that they were observing at 14 years old in 2022? Let me know in the comments. More importantly, make sure you subscribe to the channel, turn on your notifications. Make sure you subscribe to the Patreon. That link is in the description as well as pinned to the top of the chat. I just dropped a new interview in the Patreon, and it is absolutely awesome. Uncensored in its entirety, largely unedited outside of making sure that we got the audio levels what it's supposed to be. And then if you need to kick it with me personally, email me at AntonDaniels413 at gmail.com and we're going to get it popping. I love you. I appreciate you. I'm going to holler at you later. Peace.